Welcome in, everyone, and welcome back to the biggest podcast we're going to do of every year called Let's Cram It. I'm Turner Niley here with the Foghorn, ready to riff on the whole off season. You know, we here at the Week in Fantasy, we're consuming data analytics from the players. We're consuming all this information from podcasts and social media. And now it's time to take all that info, distill it, synthesize it, and just talk about the analysis of the analysis right now, right? And get you all ready for drafts.
I've downloaded so much information.
Yep. And, you know, obviously just have some fun here talking fantasy football. And let's talk about players that we're hyped on, that the analyst community is hyped on, that people are fading on, maybe we're fading, and then crisscrossing, where we see differences in opinion. Yep. Cross our I's and dot our T's.
Yeah. We're crossing streams. Okay.
Yeah. And hopefully get you in a good position to crush your draft here, because it's the next 3 weekends. This is it. This is the shit when it comes to fantasy football. Getting with your family, your friends, your bros, your hoes, and throw down and hopefully have a great time drafting your team.
Yeah. Missing wives' birthdays, you know, things like that.
Forgetting your family and just drinking the night away. All right. Well, let's get into it because we have a lot to cover, like unbelievable amount to cover.
And we have a 52-man roster to cover, but okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about first. And like, this is kind of like the layup here. But obviously the first four, you're locked in. You got your Gibbs, Bijan. There was some debate in the beginning. It's pretty much Gibbs now. The Detroit Lions are awesome. It's a better offense. Go with Gibbs. And there's Chase Puka. Puka's got the lingering suspension. Potentially, he came up a little gimpy recently too. So that kind of solidifies Chase before Puka. And really at pick 5, this is where the first decision has to get made. And let's talk about who's typically here at number 5. And that is,
oh my God, my boy.
Yep, it's Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. Listen, guys, I love me some CMC. Me and Turner were in a draft this past weekend, and he fell all the way to me at the 9 hole, or as we say in my family, the 9 hole, right? Yeah, he, you know, look, you guys know all the positives about him, right? The positives are when he plays, he's the RB1, right? Every year. He gets more touches than anybody. Last year he had 413 touches. So he went over 400, and that's where everybody gets a little scary. That's where you see the substation monster coming after him, shooting bolts out of his eyes. There is only been, I believe I was reading a stat that there has been basically a couple running backs that have gone over that many touches and over the age of 30. 60% of the time they die, right? So you're taking a gamble here with him. You obviously are. It's all the upside. You know, there's only been, 2010, 17 running backs. I'm looking at my notes now. I told you guys I crammed a lot of information. 17 running backs since 2010 over the since then that aren't even over the age of 30 that have hit over 400 touches, and 60% of them got hurt the next year, and 20% of them would decline the following year. So I like those odds. That means I got a freaking 20% chance that McCaffrey's going to do the same thing he did last year. So, you know, it is what it is, but that's why his vibes are not as they're not at 97. You know what I mean? They're at 78.
Yeah.
You know?
And just to add on to that, like, this is what we did with Saquon last year. You know, when we did this podcast last year, it was the same thing. You know, it's kind of wash, rinse, repeat with the carry volume. And I think the other thing, like what the Fantasy Football Today team had put here, which is each time that McCaffrey has had this type of volume, he has been hurt for the next season. So we're staring down that barrel. He's older, to your point. It's kind of doom and gloom here for McCaffrey. So let's move on. Then after McCaffrey, we want to talk about the back end RBs. And David Krupski is going to talk to us about some of these running backs you could be seeing at the end of the first round and the beginning of the second round.
4 running backs, all going in the first 2 rounds. None of these guys is a town question. Every one of them is an environment question. Will the offense turn these touches into points at the price I'm paying? So the first guy I want to look at is actually Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, to me, is a buy. His price is 15.6 ADP, which is early second. I think he's going to smash it. Here's a team that has lots of questions. Quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, love drafting him. Always enjoyed watching him play. Coming off ACL surgery, damaged his knee, not going to run as much. I've already said that. Rashee Rice, jail. Knee rehab was interrupted because of jail. Worthy's already hurt due to the shoulder injury. Kelsey's long in the tooth. Brandon Thorn has the Chiefs ranked as the 8th best offensive line in his yearly rankings. I see this as a smash. I think Kenneth Walker is going to do really well, and he has top 5 overall potential because of the way the Chiefs are set up. The second guy, DeVonta, he's a fade for me. Last year, I drafted a ton of him. His price right now is 16.5 on FFPC, makes him the running back 9, right after Kenneth Walker. My take was all in last year. As I said, I'm off him pretty much entirely in redraft, and I'm taking only a little bit of him in best ball. The guy ran and caught the ball well last year. Not going to deny that. But Tyreek's gone, Waddle's gone, McDaniel's gone. There's a whole new team. Coaches come out and said they're going to run a ball. Sounds great. Etienne's a running back. Why aren't I taking him? Malik Willis is a new quarterback. He has never thrown more than 23 passes in a game. And this team's going to stink. I'm sorry, if you're a Dolphins fan, hate to break it to you. You're playing for 2027. You're playing for the NFL draft, hoping for a top pick. This is not going to be a good team. And taking a running back on a not a good team, you would think this is a good idea because he gets a lot of passes. They're going to play slow, according to Pat Thorman. I just don't see it. And their offensive line is ranked towards the bottom by Brandon Thorn. I just don't see it. Not worth the value. I see other guys that are better. If HM would drop in the 3rd round, I'd consider it, but he's not. And so I'm passing on round 2. The third guy, Ashton Jeanty, Las Vegas Raiders. There are a couple guys on X, love Jeanty. And I don't get into big banter on X, but I see their arguments. I understand them. I get it. Jeanty is a highly talented player. I got him in a couple of dynasty teams. But this year, do I really want 2 Raiders on my team or 1 Raider on my team that is not likely going to be the best target earner when I see Bowers going earlier on FFPC, later in other formats? I see that as the better value. I like Jeanty. He's a great player. They've rebuilt the line. They brought in Linderbaum back. They have Spencer Burford, left guard, and Colton Miller back from ankle injury. Brandon Thorn still has them 26. I just don't see it. I know Kubiak's in town. I just don't see them with a rookie quarterback that they're going to be able to get him the ball enough through the air and on the ground, and that this team's going to be good enough to put my top pick, possibly at the end of round 1, he's going 11.5 of ADP, on the line for this guy. The one thing about round 1 picks is you don't want them to ruin your league, ruin your season. You want to make sure that it is a good pick. I just don't see Jeanty at 11.5 as a guy who's going to smash his ADP. I don't see RB1 overall. I even see Kenneth Walker beating him at the end of the season in points. I just see their other values, and I'm going to take somebody else at the end of round 1. Lastly, Saquon Barkley. Love Barkley. A couple years ago, of course, he smashed. Last year, I was off a little bit, and it was the right time. He's going ADP 17.7 on FFPC. My concern is 29. He's playing on a team that has a lot of question marks. Jalen Hurts may not even be on the team next year. There's been some questions about his talent, the commitment of the Eagles to Hurts. I think Saquon is still a great running back. I have him in best ball. I'm a little bit underweight, but not much. But in redraft, I'd rather have Kenneth Walker and rather look at maybe another running back like Chase Brown in that area. I just don't see it. I know that the Eagles are ranked 2nd by Brandon Thorn. So you're obviously looking at a running back who has a great offensive line. However, my concern is we have a new offensive coordinator. Sean Mannion is kind of an unknown. We know that Hurts has already said he doesn't want to run. This sounds like an opportunity for success for Barkley. Again, he's going to get his carries. He's not as explosive as he used to be. He just turned 29 years old in February. And we know that clip of 30 outside of the big dog Derrick Henry is usually a really strong number for running backs. Dallas Goedert got a lot of touches around the goal line. Maybe that was because A.J. Brown wasn't doing as well. There's opportunity here. I agree. I just don't see Hurts and Sean Mannion giving it all to Barkley. I just see other opportunity. If Barkley falls a little bit in any redraft, I'll scoop him up. But at his current price, I think he's just too expensive to take. And there's other guys around him that I think are just going to produce better. Even a Justin Jefferson, a Lamb at the end of round 1, or if you're talking about the turn in some leagues as he goes at round 2, I'd rather have Chase Brown and Kenneth Walker. I just find that these guys have more value.
All right. Thanks, David. For me, you talk about Jeanty, Barkley, Walker, and HN. I know David didn't like HN, but, I feel like he's the only one that's there. For me, he's still the one probably I've got more of the soft spot for. I still believe in the talent. I still believe that, with the lack of receiving weapons there, he'll be planked with targets. But he's probably the one I'm most high on this list. How about you, Foghorn?
I'm high on. I still like Genty. Genty still finished last year 975 yards, 5 touchdowns on a horrible team. They've upgraded. I know their offensive line they've upgraded. I think he's gonna, I think he gets to 1100. I think he's still solid. And if you're rolling with him as your RB2, and you have one of the other guys, I mean, you're stoked, right? And most people are going to give him as RB1, but I really like Genty. I know that Dave's down on him because of the pass catching ability, and
just the opportunity.
Yeah, it's just the opportunity, especially in a PPR league. But I still like Genty a lot.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on then to our next topic here, and that is a trade that happened, the breakup with benefits. We've talked a little bit about DeVonta Smith in our ADP Riser show, but fantasy managers have to love these types of situations where a trade gets made and both players get a boost. And so let me take us over here first to AJ Brown. Now, AJ Brown, people were pretty disappointed with his performance last year. I know, he kind of mailed it in towards the end of the season too. So if you're a Philly fan, you weren't very happy with that.
Yeah.
But, I think we need to, put some shade on Kevin Patullo in Philadelphia. He obviously was a problem there. And for what it was worth, for AJ Brown, like, he finished as a wide receiver 10 last year, even with the numbers that people weren't happy with. And you can see here, watching the ADP since June, he's climbed really high. We have him as our wide receiver 7. Deebo on Fantasy Pros with this quote below. He's got him all the way up at 5, which is crazy, but it's Drake May. He's slinging it. And Brown is by far the best talent that he's got on that roster.
Yeah. And Drake May's a better passer than Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Obviously, I think AJ Brown is one of these guys who's got to be motivated to play, right? He just can't spend all his time reading, the Diary of Anne Frank on the sideline. He needs to basically get himself going and motivate himself. And when he is, he had that one game, I think one game last year or 2 games, he just went off like 35 points, something like that. So but by the way, I still love, we talked about him on one of our earlier shows. I still love DeVonta Smith, right? I still think he's fantastic. I just see the plus side going to AJ here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, AJ's getting an upgrade. For DeVonta Smith, let's get to him, the Slim Reaper. We all believe he's a great talent. He may need a sandwich, but he's still very good. And, the drum beat around him has been in this very small sample. When AJ Brown was out, he was a monster, and so, wide receiver 3 in yards per game at 89 and wide receiver 10 in targets without AJ Brown. And then, again, 45% target share, 35% target share, 28% target share when AJ Brown is not there. But Kyle Lemon's hurt. He's not getting ramped up. Dontavian Wicks is Dontavian Wicks, dude. DeVonta Smith is probably one of my favorite picks, and he's gone up a crap ton in ADP, like monstrous and sleeper, which is a shame, but he's still, to me, one of the great grabs you can get in the 3rd round.
Yeah. I like I said, I completely and totally agree with you. I love DeVonta Smith. He's fast as shit. He gets in the open field and he is gone, dude. See a home run, right?
All right. Well, let's move on then to our next segment here and talk about the Cocaine Wizard.
There he is on a 4-day bender. Yeah. The McDaniel.
It's just all sorts of wrong.
Look at that. Dude, he's going to have, you got Herbert running in the Z. He's going to have Hampton and Wildcat and shotgun under center. Who knows what's going to happen, right?
This offense is going to be going everywhere.
Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen? The big thing, but all seriousness, folks, the big thing about McDaniel is McDaniel's the best head coach for a running back, right? And Hampton last year is had the best season that nobody paid attention to in fantasy. Some of the stats about Hampton, which kind of blew me away, was he averaged over 15 points a game in 9 games, right? In PPR formats. He actually had a bigger snap share than Gibbs, Cook, and Chase Brown in 4 games where he had 75. It was just, it's these crazy stats about him. And now he's getting a real offensive coordinator, not fucking Greg Roman. So there's one, right? So there's one weapon in that offense. Then you have obviously Herbert, who I think is a very undervalued quarterback. When he's on, he is on. I think the thing about Herbert is he needs to have a connection with the receiver, right? He showed that with Keenan Allen a few years ago, where they exploded. Last year, yeah. But like 2 years ago, he did it with him, right? I mean, he was pacing at some unbelievable rate. And then the other thing about Herbert that I like about him is Herbert's gonna he's gonna take off and run, right? So we've got him right now is the QB 10, right? I think he's going to finish the season possibly with this offense as a QB 5 in the top 5. And I think that McConkey's kind of the one where, it feels like you're drafting him as a wide receiver 1, but he's not getting enough targets for wide receiver 1, which always feels kind of weird. We talked about this on another show where it feels like, Quentin Johnson, yes, his vibes are down. He's a little nicked up right now, but we were talking about how he, maybe they're splitting that 50-50, and you kind of have to really see who Herbert's going to go for, right? And who he's going to be throwing the bomb to. But I really have positive vibes about this whole offense. I'm trying to grab as many pieces of, shares of these guys. I lost out on Hampton, obviously, in a draft we just did. And McConkey. I did get Quentin Johnson because I love Quentin Johnson. What say you, T?
Yeah, like you let in here, where everyone is super hyped with McDaniel co-confused offense. And, but like, I'm a Hampton stan. Like, if you added Hampton to that list that David ran through, I'd probably grab Hampton. I really believe this offense is going to be, electric. We loved what McDaniel did with Achane and with Mostert. So I think he's probably the one that everyone's most hyped on. Obviously, we had their center, Biadasz is out now, probably for an extended period of time, maybe this season. That sucks. But, like after Hampton became the starter last year, he was 10 points a game all but 1 week and, saw a pretty, solid target share or target volume. McConkey, kind of a wild ride. I definitely feel more bullish on him because Allen didn't sign there. So, what are the options? I know a lot of analysts are like looking at his stats and progression and comparing him to this, making him this year's JSN. So there's some hype there. I already, I talked about on the ADP movers, Quentin Johnson is like one of the best picks you can make in a draft from my standpoint. Yeah. Like he was the wide receiver 1 in points per game last year. He was at 11.2 points per game versus Lad's 9.6 and half point PPR. So he already was doing better than Lad last year. Probably maybe more boom busty, but at that cost, it's fantastic. And then Herbert, he was hurt last year. The line was crap. None of those things have changed. And like, if anyone wants to look up his splits when Joe Alt's in the offense, I mean, it's pretty dramatic how much better he is when that line is short up. And
your boy, Joe Alt elite.
Yeah. Joe Alt elite. Like it should be a different ball game from an offensive line perspective, which is going to open everything up. And then obviously McDaniel working his wizardry to make things happen.
No, hold on.
All right. Nice one. Let's move on then now to our next guy to cover.
Oh my God.
Shakedown, breakdown, you busted. This guy can't get out of his own effing way. All right. So we're talking obviously about Rashee Rice here, who is at this point kind of going pretty high in the draft. I gotta put and like it's sleeper, it's getting kind of crazy. We're talking, top of the 3rd round, ESPN back end of the 2nd. And so for me, like if you've been listening to the analysts this year, he's like, I think the number 1 or number 2 bust call of the season. Like he is unanimously being, faded, shaded, whatever you want to say, dumped on Cleveland Steamers on his chest. It's and it's crazy because there's something there, but so the bottom line with him is like obviously we had him the knucklehead incident with the car, then we had the smoking weed and getting put in jail with the offseason surgery, then that he couldn't rehab, and so now you're left with a guy that's now reportedly limping around, and then
hold on, you forgot about what he did the same thing with the same namesake. Kind of different, interesting. What Ray Rice did, he went ahead and he beat up his girlfriend.
Yeah, so I mean, there you go. I missed that. Like, we have here. This is just a couple days ago with Schefter saying, he's not out of the woods, and he could get suspended again.
Yeah, and he has a bubble gum made. He has a bubble gum, a knee made of bubble gum and Scotch tape right now. So yeah.
But the counterpoint here is that obviously when he's in there in the lineup, he's 15 fancy points or fantasy points, or 17 depending on your platform, and like his 17 game pay, the last 17 games he's played, he's well into wide receiver 1 territory, but it's propped up by manufactured touches, which people like look at like that's a gimmick. And that being said, when was the last time he played a full season? So you can't to me, like this is an easy fade in this high of a draft capital, especially in the second, no way. Third round. I mean, I think in the fourth round, it gets a little interesting for me, but I just, for me, the first 3 rounds in particular, like I don't want to take on a lot of risk. And, I know some people may say, that's no risk and no biscuit, but like you got to hit on those picks and really, create this solid foundation for your team. And then it's really, chasing upside and some more boom bust maybe later on.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. I mean, the thing about it is like you play against this guy and I'm going to talk all this shit about him. We're going to talk all this shit. And then whoever I'm playing against in the league he's going to go off on me. And I'm going to be like, because he does have the talent. I mean, he can do it. I mean, he's done it. Now, the gimmicky thing, like, well, do we give a shit as long as he has the ball, right? Like he's moving forward, right? Getting yards and touches and things like that. But the guy has proven a lot of people wrong before, in game to game situations. I agree with you. I'm fading him. I wouldn't even touch him until the 5th round. That's how much I'm fading him.
So you're never getting him.
I'm never getting him, right? Like I don't want him. Like that's the thing. I don't want to touch him at all.
Yeah, there's too many knucklehead moments for me to get on board at this draft capital and potentially blow a draft pick that early knowingly, versus like an injury or something like that. All
Let's talk about some fun guys.
Yeah, let's talk about the beefcakes here. Let's go to Fantasy Stud Island here in the 4th round. And this is kind of one of my favorites. Let me, sorry. But, I mean, Emeka Egbuka looks so uncomfortable right here. It's just, Wilson's having the time of his life, but Egbuka is like an animal.
Dude. Federer's getting ready to do a luau, dude.
Yeah. Sure. So this is kind of like one of the, this particular segment talking about the 4th round wide receiving core is kind of one of the biggest advocates or advocacy moments of double tapping running back early, especially if you're in the, picking towards the back end of round 1, because running backs are flying off the board in this year's draft. They've been super healthy this, past couple seasons. And so now people are not afraid to gobble them up early in their drafts. And, we've seen that with wide receivers going down. We've seen that with quarterbacks going down in ADP price this year. And so this right here, though, like this quartet of individuals, you could probably throw Ladd McConkey in here. But like, are a reason why if you go hard in the paint with running back, maybe even grab a Josh Allen, maybe even grab one of the premium tight ends, you might be able to get a wide receiver 1 in this round. And let me take us over here to the ADPs and the vibes. And so we're talking about Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Emeka Egbuka, and Teteroa McMillan as these kind of premier young studs in round 4. Obviously, Garrett Wilson was just on fire last year before he got hurt. We're talking, this is how he started the season: 19 points, 7 points, 19.4, 17 points, 16 points, and then he was hurt and didn't play again. So he was crushing last year with Justin Fields. Jalen Waddle heading to a team now with the Denver Broncos that has one of the highest pace of plays. He finished as wide receiver 18 last year on a team that was 31st in pace of play weeks 1 through 16. Emeka Egbuka, we know what he did early in the season. He was amazing before he got hurt. He looked like he was going to be a bona fide superstar. And then Teteroa McMillan was kind of the flip of this. Teteroa McMillan, I think from about week 10, week 11 on, really turned it on. And only had I think 2 dud games. One of them, both of them were actually in the fantasy playoffs. But I think from week 11 on, he was pretty much a stud. He's added 12 pounds of muscle. So any of these guys, I'm happy to leave here with a potential wide receiver 1 candidate if I'm grabbing someone like, and by far, like wide receiver 2, sign me up. Like these guys have, locked and loaded. Yeah. But like if I can grab 2 running backs and one of the onesie premiums, I can feel pretty good grabbing one of these guys in the 4th round. And for me, out of these 4, I'm probably highest on Garrett Wilson. I just feel like he's a special talent. And with Geno Smith coming in, there's a lot of upside here with him if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I will say this. The ladies in that last photo look like they're ready to gobble up some 4th round wide receiver talent for sure. Served on a piping hot on a steaming plate, right? All oiled up. Anyway, yeah, I love all of these guys, right? You hit the nail on the head. The strategy of going, double running back at the beginning and then taking, like you said, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson and getting one of these guys in the 4th round. Yeah, sign me up. I'm highest on Egbuka, for sure. But I love Garrett Wilson, and I love I will say the one I'm most intrigued about out of the 4 of them is Waddle. Like, it feels like Waddle could go bananas. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? He could just, with that offense, Bo Nix, spoiler alert, we will talk about him later. But, with those guys, in that offense and Sean Payton, look at all the players that Sean Payton, when he had like wide receiver talent, like a true wide receiver one.
Like Michael Thomas.
Yeah. Like Michael Thomas, like Marquez Colston, who came out as a tight end, many moons ago, right? We're going back. That's a deep cut right there. But I mean, yeah, those players went off. And then, I'm really intrigued by Waddle a lot. And then Tate, he came on super strong. He kind of, at the beginning, I was like, oof, but it was the last, 5 weeks, 5-6 weeks last season. When he came on
like last like 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember him like playing something. I'm playing somebody in one of the leagues and he started crushing me with them. But yeah, all these guys are great. And I like them almost as much as those MILFs like them.
Yep, A would sleep with all of them. So, I mean, just to really touch on Waddle, because I forgot to mention this too, but like everyone's throwing around the Joker role for him, which is like the Peyton boner pill. Yeah. So, if that's true, it should be very interesting for him. All right. We've got some stuff.
Hang up those upside down pineapples and let's go to them.
So get your studs in the 4th round is basically what we're saying. Yeah. Okay, let's get into the tight end premium that we're seeing this year. We've obviously got our stalwart studs from the last couple years in Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, with obviously Trey McBride just destroying the position last year. And then into the fray comes 2 rookies from last year, Holston Loveland and Tyler Warren. All of these guys have kind of been the talk of the offseason when it comes to tight ends and are going to cost you, obviously, in terms of McBride and Bowers, 2nd round draft capital most likely, Loveland likely a 4th, and Warren in the 4th or maybe the 5th round these days. And so we'll talk about Brock Bowers first. I think everyone is all in that he replaces Trey McBride as the tight end 1 this season. It's all about his health, but everything is set up here. As Fantasy Points said, volume is king. Brock Bowers is set up to be the tight end 1 this year, just the way the offense is currently set up. And by that, he means the offense is just him, basically, and Genty. And so he's going to be the number 1 pass catcher on this team by a long shot. You've got, obviously, Kirk Cousins, who knows how to pepper tight ends, and a tight end is traditionally a rookie's best friend for Mendoza. And so it's pretty easy to see the path here for Brock Bowers, basically destroying fantasy, big opportunity cost. So anyone who's taking Brock Bowers, I would recommend your plan should be to take a running back in the 1st round, because it gets dry real quick and you'll be stuck with someone probably that you're not going to be very happy with as your RB1. Now, moving on to our 2nd tight end, Trey McBride. So in the analyst community, he's probably at his current ADP considered one of the biggest potential busts in fantasy. And I think it comes down to what the Late Round Fantasy Podcast is calling out here, is that at some point Carson Beck is going to be plugged in at QB. And thankfully kind of looked okay in his preseason debut. And so, but it definitely, pumps the brakes on the upside for Trey McBride, especially when you need him in the fantasy playoffs. So I think that's where the word of caution. I think he's still going to be great this year, but yeah, you're probably going to have more volatility and more risk towards the end of the season when you may need him the most, when Carson Beck is in the lineup. After that, you've got Colston Loveland of the Bears, and per Josh and Hayden, they've got him 10 spots higher, and Colston, I got him higher as well, about that 10 to 11 spots higher. In his last 4 games of the season, including the playoffs, 22, 25, 24, and then 10 full PPR points per game at tight end. He lit it up. he projects to be at least the secondary target on this team, with people flipping between Odunze and Burden. He's definitely someone who could smash and be tight end 1. I think if you listen to the Ants community, they're all very bullish on Loveland's upside. Some of them even having him number 2 over McBride. And then our final tight end to discuss, we've got Tyler Warren, and unfortunately, he's just got a groin injury. Thankfully, it sounds like it's not going to be too serious. He'll likely sit out, maybe a week or 2, could be the rest of the preseason, but they expect him to be ready for week 1. Now, the reason to be bullish on Warren, one, the lowest draft capital out of all of these guys. And then, with Daniel Jones coming back from an Achilles, his running upside is probably going to be limited. So I think you have the opportunity now to see Tyler Warren more in Wildcat in the 10 zone, 5 zone here, with the opportunity to, run the Wildcat and either run it in the end zone himself, maybe even throw it, other than handing it off to JT, of course. And so you've got some upside here with some additional touchdowns coming his way. And, right now, obviously they signed Keenan Allen, but Pittman's gone, and Warren looks like he could be just huge upside this year. Again, assuming Daniel Jones is going to play starting week 1, even though he may not be as effective as he was peppering Warren when he was in the lineup. So those are the 4 tight end premiums that everyone's been talking about this year. It's going to cost you, so be ready and plan. I think you got to go in with your plan if you're going to take a tight end high this year, because it's going to cost you, an elite running back or an elite receiver. So just be ready to make your moves and plan your first, 5 rounds out of how are you going to offset spending that draft capital on a premium tight end. Let's go from the studs maybe to what we're considering some duds here in our overpriced all-stars of the fantasy offseason. And we're talking about Travion Henderson and Luther Burden. And man, this hype train for Burden was burning bright. It's starting to come down. Same with Henderson. I think the reality started to set in. The sharps were super high on these guys early on. And I think the home leagues in particular are pushing their ADPs down, and like the ESPN Yahoos and to some extent the sleepers of the world. Super high, still an underdog. And, for me, these are 2 guys I am fully out on at their ADP. I love the talent, like especially Henderson. I think he's a fantastic talent. And when he's got the opportunity to lead a backfield, he's going to be awesome. He's going to be a fantasy superstar. For Burden, I don't even know if he's the best wide receiver on his team. Like, for me, like, when we talk about opportunity costs with these players at their draft capital, you're talking like, depending on your platform, 4th round, 5th round, you get into the 6th round, 7th round, it gets more interesting. These guys being drafted now in the 4th and maybe sometimes into the 5th, I'm usually out because, for me, trade-offs for Burden, we're talking about a Dunze you're leaving off the table, who, again, I've ranked higher. We're talking about JMO, talking about someone we're going to talk about later, Christian Watson. Or for me, like, we started to allude to the kind of the quarterback depression this year and the bargains that we're having there. You've got Hurts available where Burden's being drafted. And then on the flip side with Trevo, I'd much rather have like a DeAndre Swift. You got like any of the star quarterbacks really available beyond, the top 3. You've got Burrow and May. You've got Tyler Warren being drafted after him, or Jalen Waddle. Again, all people I would rather have than Travion Henderson. And obviously there's upside here. You're past that, maybe those first 3 picks. But I just like, especially with these QB prices going down, it's very hard for me to pull the trigger on these guys as like a wide receiver 3, maybe and a wide receiver 2 for Burden, or for Hendo, my RB2, RB3, maybe I can get behind. But I'm again, like at that point, I probably double tapped running back, and I'm probably going to want to grab, someone like, Christian Watson or Jalen Waddle. What say you, Abe?
Well, I remember last year, the hype train was fully steaming towards New England for Travion Henderson.
Stinky steaming.
He was a darling last year.
Yeah, super.
And it was the same guy. And last year, yes, Travion Henderson had his flashes. Yes, towards the middle to last half of the season, he started kind of stepping up. But he was a major disappointment, I think, in the first half of the season where you were drafting him.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
And it feels like Burden is going to do the same thing. Plus, again, I agree. I think that there's, to hit on, not even just wide receivers, right? Like, I like Rome better out of the 2 of them, obviously. But I think, Loveland is a better target for Caleb than Burden.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, these guys they're overvalued. Now their skincare products are definitely undervalued because I don't know what's going on with the acne scars on this guy.
They need some serious. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'm like, what happened to him? But yeah, I'd rather have Watson. I'd rather have Drake May, those guys, in that position. Or as you alluded to earlier, another guy I really like too, DeAndre Swift as well. So speaking of up air,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's like, again, I think they're overpriced right now by a round, right? But if you're going to get them, which you won't, because somebody else in another that's not paying attention is going to grab these guys, especially Henderson, because as you said before, running backs just fly off the board.
Yep. Good points. Like, the problem with Endo, you just Ramondre's good, and so until he loses that opportunity, you're going to be in that same position as last year. And then Burden, to your point, maybe the third option.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then to our next segment here.
Speaking of running backs, yeah.
Oh, hold on. Let's talk about Chuba versus Jonathan Brooks.
Ready, fight. Yeah. These guys are they're interesting, man. It's like, talk about flip-flopping. Ask me what day of the week, and I'll tell you which guy I want to take. It goes back and forth. I know. Look, I get everybody's like all hype on Jonathan Brooks. He's obviously the more explosive back, right? But I think that Hubbard is like, I like Hubbard because he's just like, he's a grinder, right? And I get it. I'm not going to get into all the stats about these guys, right? I will say this: you look at them; they're at RB32 and RB34 right now, right? In our ranking, so they're 1-2, and it's pick your choice. Obviously, Hubbard his vibes are going down, all that. But my favorite line is from these guys is where who is it? The guys from Fantasy
Points, yeah.
Who is it? It's I can't see him again on there. I'm totally pulling a blank here. Oh yeah, Fantasy Points. They said they were the immovable object, right, about Hubbard, which I think is hilarious. And he came back from calf injury and really got a starting job back. So if you're getting your starting job back by your coach, even when Rico Dotto was going nuts, like, what are we talking about, right? Like, maybe he is pretty good. And Jonathan Brooks always seems to, die. So, it's just a flip-floppy game. It's kind of like whoever's available at that time. And I'm, again, every week or every day, I'm like, oh, I'll take that guy. I'll take that guy. I'll take that guy. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting to see how much Brooks hype has caught fire here. We're talking about a guy that has 12 career touches on his resume. But, to this point, like, a healthy Jonathan Brooks here by the Fantasy Pros, by all accounts, that is the guy we have playing this season out of Texas. He's going to be offering a lot of explosiveness out of the backfield, especially as a pass catcher. So, like, he seems like he could do everything Chuba can do, but maybe better if he's healthy. And by all metrics last year, Chuba Hubbard was one of the worst running backs from an efficiency standpoint.
Sure.
And so I think the argument, it's Jonathan Brooks, if he's healthy, at some point he takes his job. Chuba Hubbard, if you believe in Chuba, you believe that he's the locker room, mojo man, and Canales has a soft spot for him, and he'll continue to get reps. It's a little bit scary with Jonathan Brooks' ADP is going at this point. I definitely, again, more interested in him. I think he does overtake Hubbard, but he's not someone you can, at this point, like where he may be going to RB2 territory, that you can really trust that he's going to get that role out of the gate, and then you're kind of stuck waiting for him and potentially losing games. So it's not something I want to plan on having Brooks as my RB2, but it is an exciting player with upside, and that's what we all want. We want to chase the upside. We want sexy. Hubbard is definitely not sexy.
He's definitely not sexy. No. So you changed my mind already. Awesome. Not back on board. Thanks.
Well, let's take a ride on a rocket ship here. We talked about Jonathan Brooks taking off from an ADP perspective. Let's talk about two more darlings here. Let's talk about wide receivers in Parker Washington and Christian Watson. And with these guys here, let me take us over. Obviously you can see Parker Washington's ADP has shot up, much like that rocket in the image. And Christian Watson has pretty much been steady, but he landed ADP wise significantly high. And, just really quick talking about Christian Watson. I think Christian Watson has a chance to exceed the 1,100 yards. And I think 13 touchdown catches are very, very much in play from the RotoWire team. That's like an extreme vote of confidence. And then next, I don't think it's been amplified enough how he's been deployed in this Packers offense previously, but with Matthew Golden taking on the X role as a field stretcher, I think Christian Watson is in for a breakout season as a potential top 12 guy from Fantasy Pros. Analyst community is loving both of these guys, but Christian Watson is probably the one people are most in love with. And, he just because, what we saw last year from him, how quickly he came back from that, once he came back from the injury, how quickly he got into the offense and was hyper efficient. And now with the vacated targets with Dobbs and Wicks going away, seeing that consolidation potentially happening, Christian Watson has people really excited. And then for Parker Washington here, from Yahoo Fantasy, Matt Harmon and those guys. Yeah, I mean, look at this. I think Parker Washington is really set up to be the top pass catcher on the team right now. A little vote of confidence in that ambiguous situation. Maybe on the other side, the other point here from Fantasy Football Today, we can see Parker Washington continue to get a ton of targets. He had the same pace from week 7 on last year as CeeDee Lamb had for the entire season at 14.4 points per game. Now, the argument against Parker Washington right now is it took some injuries, right? Travis Hunter was hurt, and BTJ was banged up. So it's that he's one I'm probably a little more concerned about diving into, and his ADP is getting uncomfortable. If you look at Underdog, they're like neck and neck and back to back. I'm definitely much more in on Christian Watson this year. I believe more in his talent. There's less mouths to feed than there is in Jacksonville. Abe, who you hyped on? Any comments to say on these two?
I like Parker Washington more out of the two of them. I think it is getting baked in properly, and I think we're really seeing all the camp news. Yeah, so it's being. You're starting to see all of the hype, and you're starting to see, what I frankly think is the fantasy community and what we're providing here at twif, which is all this information because of where he's moved up so much. I mean, everybody expected Christian Watson once Tavion Wicks and Romeo Dobbs left. Like it was like, okay, it's the Christian Watson show. You know what you're getting there. So they're both even. I think Parker Washington is the more intriguing of the two. Definitely, just because I think, in that offense with Liam Cohen, I get it. All these offensive guru guys like LaFleur and, in Green Bay, and then you got Liam Cohen. But it feels like when you watch film, right, Trevor Lawrence, like he's looking for him, right? Just like, Jordan Love is looking for Christian Watson. But the difference is that Christian Watson feels, he's the outside guy, where Parker is like kind of like, the Joker role, whatever you want, the slot. He's running in and out of the slot. Watson's always lining up on the outside, right? They have a guy that's kind of like Parker Washington, another player I've always loved. We've talked about numerous times, Jaden Reed, kind of filling that position, there, where it feels like Washington can be moved around the field more, if that makes sense. So there's more opportunity in that regard. But I don't think you go wrong either one, especially where they're getting drafted right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think they're, again, Parker Washington's maybe getting a little too hot for me, but like, I think there's still great players you can grab, especially as, potentially been a wide receiver 3, which is be amazing. So let's move on out of the wide receiver position and let's talk about QBs. Before I show the graphic here, I just want to make a comment. Like, again, like everyone should be paying attention. Like it is a huge QB recession and they're all on sale. We're going to talk to you about the distinct fire sale guys here that you'll be looking at in the later rounds if you are waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So let's go to the discount aisle here to pick up 4 discount QBs, the true late rounders that we're eyeing this year.
The blue light special on them. Okay, so out of the group of 4 in these wonderful toy packages, there's 2 that I like and there are 2 that I don't like. And I'm going to go with the 2 that I like first. I think that Bo Nix is way, way underpriced. I mean, like when I say way underpriced, it is crazy. Here's some, I got some Bo Nix stats for you. All right. You ready for this? He led the NFL in pass attempts, ranked 5th in intended air yards, and was one of only 2 quarterbacks to finish top 7 in both pass and rush attempts. You know who the other is. Now, is he efficient? No, but are you really giving a shit about that much? It's quarterback play, right? Like you're getting, I mean, you're getting Bo Nix in like 14th round right now, maybe 13th round. So I think he's got a lot of, especially with the addition of Jalen Waddle, another weapon for him. I'm really, really, really like Bo Nix a lot. I didn't pick him up in one of our drafts recently, but he, I keep passing him by because we got some smart guys in the draft picking him up. Now, obviously, the big knock against him is his inefficiency, right? He threw 612 times, led the league in attempts, and still failed to reach 4,000 yards and 26 touchdowns, which is kind of crazy. But again, I'm taking him over Kyler Murray. That's for damn sure. All I'm going to say about Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray sucks. Don't draft him. He's dog shit. All right. I'm just going to give my opinion. Okay. Now, Shough, though, dude, this guy is a stud. This guy is, I got him as my last pick in a draft we just did. He's my last pick before we got to defensive kickers, right? That bullshit. But he was basically, I got him in round 13, 14. And he was on pace last year for 4,300 passing yards when he played after the Smitzer-Rattler experiment ended, right? So, he's also good for possibly baked in at 350 to 450, say 400 yards in rushing yards. So that's going to get you points too. And talking about a discount, you're getting your quarterback, a guy who's a quarterback 19 right now, right? Who could be, I think, a top 10 or even a top 8 quarterback. And, just full disclosure, the league we're in, I drafted Lamar Jackson and I got this guy as my backup. Now I'm drafting obviously a top 2 quarterback in that league. And I'm very happy if, Lamar breaks his, limp throwing wrist, limp style throwing arm, right? If he breaks his arm, I got this guy as my backup. Going to the last guy, Malik Willis. He's Miami, dude. Are you touching any Miami players? The answer is absolutely no, unless it's DeVonta, right? Right. I don't buy it. I'm not even gonna have anything to say about Malik Willis. So you guys know who I like and who I don't like.
Haterade.
Yeah.
Oh, something about your choices there. Bo Nix. Yeah. So Bo Nix, yeah, obviously much higher up in the charts. And to your point, like the pace of play, wide receiver 1 in back-to-back years. I think on Sleeper, what is he going? 118. That puts you like in the 10th round. Kyler Murray, I know you hate him, but he's QB1 in points per game every season he's played, except for last year. He's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. He's got KOC. So there's reason for he's playing for his career basically. Super interesting. I'm definitely like Bo Nix to me is obviously a higher draft capital. May be the one I'd want to get. Kyler Murray though, you're getting deeper into the draft. I'm in on him. Obviously, I've drafted him before. I like Tyler Shough as well. I don't know how much mobility he has. And then with Malik Willis, to your point, right? It's Miami offense sucks. And so you're just hoping he runs for like 800 yards, 750 yards. And at the end of the day, you're getting him, literally the last pick of, in the draft, where he's being drafted at right now, somewhere between rounds 11 and even 16. And so, he's one of the guys where you've maybe, again, you waited on a quarterback, you take someone you like a Goff, and then you pair him with Malik Willis, waiting to see if Willis shows you anything in the first couple of weeks. And if he doesn't, you cut him. But, he's, to me, when you're looking at the Konami code potential options here, obviously it's Murray and Willis. And then, Shough has that pace of play and what he's shown last year was phenomenal. And unfortunately, Tyson's hurt, but he still was phenomenal last year with just Olave as his main receiver.
Olave went, his value went way up when Shough came. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. He actually became something. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a little pause to talk about the injury situations and the Hopeium being injected into the veins of the draft analyst community here. And I felt it was necessary. For those that don't know, Big Brain Dave here, who's injecting the Hopeium into his arm, was like our initial mascot for the weekend of fantasy for making big brain moves. Even though it looks like maybe he's got a pair of the fellas on top of his head. I just can't. It's too funny.
Oh my God. We love you, Dave.
but the throughout this offseason, we've heard nothing but great things that are happening for the progress of these people that were injured or players that were injured during the offseason. And so I thought it'd be best to talk through some of these injuries before you go out and spending a lot of draft capital on them so you understand where you are. First off, Patrick Mahomes, torn ACL, LCL in his left knee in December. Now, supposedly he's been cleared of full training camp participation. The videos have looked good. Typically, a multi-ligament knee tear requires 9 to 12 plus months. That knee tear was on his plant leg. He's at the 7th month mark, which is remarkably fast. Well ahead of time. And I will say, like, I don't know if something's changed with medicine. I don't know what they're doing in Germany. You know, they're cloning they're making clones of players and grafting their perfect replacements onto their knees, their Achilles, whatever it is, the blood platelets, the peptides, whatever is in that's maybe more than Hopeium that's being injected into them. We're seeing some weirdness here. So let me start there. But, you know, you talk about this. First off, sounds like Mahomes is going to be ready to play. His draft price is great right now. So he's definitely, you know, in that late round category at this point. But you can't expect him to run. Like, he made his money last year running. You can't expect that to be good out of the gate. You're going to have to, you know, probably this whole season, it's not going to be great. And you're probably going to see a less than stellar Mahomes to start the season over the first month. Malik Neighbors, this was one of the biggest concerns people had when they saw him limping around first base in a softball game. He's had a lot of time to recover. So torn ACL, September 2025, rejoined the team for non-contact activities in mid-August, supposedly ready for week 1. You know, usually ACL reconstruction is 9 to 12 months. He's at the 11th month mark. So in theory, he should be ready. But I know people have said, or what we've seen with our eyes, is that this has not been a great recovery. But
it's the pancake. He had pancakes.
Yeah, remember? And he had pancakes at IHOP. But like, he's one who now we're seeing, you know, creep back up in ADP. Someone I would definitely be more like. He's moved from the 4th round to the 3rd round at this point after starting in the 2nd. Definitely in the 3rd round, he's probably worth keeping an eye on and pouncing on, because it's probably not going to be great out of the gate, but this guy's a total stud. And you've got Jackson Dart there now. So he's someone that I'm definitely in on. Tucker Kraft, torn ACL in the season, 2025, resumed 11-11 on drills in mid-August, supposedly on track for week 1. They're talked about managing his workload to keep him on a snap count in the first half of the season. So he is mirroring the standard 9 to 12 month ACL timeframe. And so the snap count is textbooked for mitigating re-injury risk. So he's like 6th, 7th round ADP. I like it. This makes me concerned because I have been drafting a bunch of them since they said he was looking good. And so if he's on a snap count for the first half of the season, not super great, but he was so ridiculously efficient last year. And again, you know, you guys have to be willing to maybe double stack the tight end position here, even if you take Kraft in the 7th or 6th. George Kittle, torn Achilles in January of 2026. This dude's going to be 34. Supposedly the greatest Achilles tear ever. But supposedly he won't be on the pup.
I don't know what that means.
And he remains very confident that he won't be on the pup and legitimate chance to start week 1. So Achilles tears traditionally 9 to 12 months. So pushing for 8 months at his age seems insane in a high risk of re-injury. I'm super out on Kittle.
News alert. Your boy, Adam Schefter, reported just a few hours ago that he remains ahead of schedule in his recovery and has a, quote, legitimate chance, unquote, to play week 1.
Yeah. 10 snaps. Yeah. Walks on the field, walks off the field. Great. Like,
or he's in a hyperbolic chamber on a flight from fucking San Francisco to Sydney. Yeah. Okay. Or Melbourne, or wherever they're playing that game.
And then, thanks for that, Abe. And Shaq Charbonnet, running back Seahawks, torn ACL in January. He is progressing well with conditioning work and hinted at a week 1 return is possible. I guess anything's possible. Standard 9 to 12 month timeline points to a mid to late season recovery in October or November. Being ready for week 1 wouldn't be an extreme outlier. Do not buy it. If you are taking Charbonnet, I hope you have an IR slot on your roster. Alec Pierce, wide receiver Colts, had ankle surgery in March, like a dope, and then had some weird PRP injection stuff going on. Again, was seen limping. He is behind his timeline, which is normally a 3-month recovery. He's at 5 months. He looks like he's on track to be absent week 1 and has not missed and will miss all of camp. He is, again, falling down draft charts. If you have the bench spot or IR spot, sure. Again, he's someone I'm not looking at to draft unless he falls into the double-digit rounds at this point. Cam Scatterbo, broken leg in November of 2025, fully on track, generally 4 to 6 month recovery time frame. August puts him at the 9-month post-recovery. timeline for injuries, doing backflips. I'm definitely the most bullish on Cam Scatterbo here. Sign me up, even though his OC is a dope. I still think Cam Scatterbo is going to print money this year. Last but not least, he's not very fantasy relevant, but his weapons are Daniel Jones, torn Achilles, December 2025. Supposedly hitting rehab landmarks, participated in 7-on-7. He's in 8 months at this point, which is exceptionally fast. We're talking 9 to 12 months again for torn Achilles. Again, this is on his plant foot, so expect his effectiveness to not be there. Expect his weapons to not get the real Daniel Jones initially. So, calm your tits when it comes to Daniel Jones and his weapons in the first month of the season. But it sounds like he's going to play.
Look, Mahomes, it's interesting that, like, as you said, it's like all these guys are, taking, stem cell research and whatever they're doing, right? Like you said, headed to Germany and doing all kinds of things, clones, because it's crazy how fast they're recovering. The interesting one, I think, out of the ones you said, and obviously, like, I'm not going to rehash everything. I do love Malik Neighbors. I got him in the 4th round in a draft recently, which was wild. That was a great pick. I love that. But the guy that's most interesting to me is the Scatterbo one, right? The Scatterbo one is like, it feels like you could, it's like, wait a second. Tyron Tracy comes in the other day, right? This has been the talk, and I'm not bringing up anything, but almost gets Jackson Dart like killed.
Yeah, murdered.
Murdered. Yeah. And they go and sign, not speaking of Germany, they go and sign Najee, and they're signing Najee Harris. And like, is there more to this? Because it feels like, as I've heard some analysts say, all this, there's smoke, there's fire. Like, there's something seems weird there. Everybody else seems like, okay, yeah, the news is where it is, but he's the one that's kind of like, wait a second, dude, like, what's happening here? Because I felt like I wanted to draft him, and then my gut told me not to when I had the chance to take him. And I was in the 3rd round. I was going to go triple running back, and then I just like, maybe not. Let's not. What am I doing? Yeah. But yeah, that was the one. I mean, your thoughts? I know that you like Scatterbo a lot, and you have a lot of
I mentioned before, I love Scatterbo. I think he's wheels up. I feel like when you talk about best picks in the draft, to me in the 4th or 5th round for Scatterbo, depending on your platform, sign me up, dude. Like, I think I think this naggy noise with Tyron Tracy and Najee Harris, like, Scatterbo was like elite last year when he had the opportunity, and so I think it's just a matter of time before he outpaces these knuckleheads and shows what he can do on the field. And him and Dart have a close connection too, so I think he'll have some say on who he wants in there on pass downs.
Are they going to Trump rallies together? Is that what they do?
Yeah, probably. All right, let's move on now, and let's uninject our veins and get a little more comfy here as we go into the rookie nursery. And this looks like it's the rookie nursery here.
Cornell Tate.
These guys talk about these guys here. All these youngins. I can't find my words right now.
Yeah.
I'm a seizure.
Just want to show
them. So cute.
So cute.
Look at the twif nanny there, making sure they're doing their thing.
Why didn't you put the socks from what was the Muppet Babies? Socks. Yeah, I mean, well, okay. So first off, we got the love train, Jeremiah, right? Going as RB15, but as you know, he's a little banged up. They say he's going to be ready week 1. I like Jeremiah Love. Like, I really like Jeremiah Love in college, dude. I was like, man, this guy is the real deal. Like, I couldn't believe how good. And then I'm going to jump over your boy Carnell Tate for a second from Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then you got the backup was awesome too, Jadarian Price. Now, I do think Jadarian Price is going, again, it's the run on running backs. I do think it's going a little high, but, he's going to get most of the workload at the beginning. I'm just like, the dude never rushed for more than 200 attempts in a season, right? Like, I mean, it was like 100 attempts last year. So it's like, can he take the workload, all of that? That's my only concern there. But the talent of those 2 Notre Dame running backs is undeniable. Carnell Tate is really interesting because I think that guy is all world, right? Like, he is another dude. How many wide receivers come out of Ohio State? Like, it's just like, it's crazy. I mean, that would be an interesting trivia question on Sports Jeopardy. Like, how many wide receiver ones in fantasy went to Ohio State? So that he's really interesting. It is Tennessee, but Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator there, I think he did some amazing things with Jackson Dart. And, if he can do that with what's his nuts, I can't think of the Tennessee quarterback right now. I just had a brain fart. What's the guy's? Help me out here. Tennessee quarterback. You're not drafting him, but
I have no idea, dude. Oh, you mean Cam Ward?
Cam Ward, thank you.
I thought you were talking about the Volunteers. I'm like, I have no idea.
No, dude. No. The Titans. The Titans cover that. Cam Ward. Yeah, I mean, I think that you're going to see an upgrade in his play. Hasn't shown in preseason yet, obviously. But I think that Tate is the most interesting one here. I'm bummed about Jordan Tyson done. So, I mean, see ya. Yeah, he's doubtful. But that's kind of a bummer. What say you on those guys?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks because all these guys got dinged up, right? You got Love with a high ankle. Tate, I think, got like a concussion that they're kind of like not really talking about. And then Tyson's going to miss a couple months, and he's already injury prone. It's like, great. Like, this is a guy like almost in undraftable state, or like you got to have the IR slot. The Tate is definitely my favorite on this list as well. Although Cam Ward looked atrocious to start, so that's a little concerning for Tate's value. Jeremiah Love, I think the very interesting thing with him is his draft price. Traditionally, NFL players drafted at as high as he's been tend to pan out, become RB, RB1, so RB12 overall or higher in fantasy, with the most recent example being Ashton Genty, and he was kind of like the worst one. A lot of them finished top 5. And so, you're getting him, I think, from a draft capital perspective, he's more like, I have him ranked RB15 in the twif ranks. I think he's more in the RB13 range. And so there's likely some upside here, again, assuming this injury is minimal. And so there is some value to be had at his price versus traditionally where rookies picked in like the top 10 of the draft have been. And so that's probably the most interesting tidbit that I'll have for these guys. And Jadarian Price, I just don't know what to make of it. I think if he's going to get the run of it, the beginning of the season could be good. When Charbonnet comes back, and then, when you're going to the fantasy playoffs, you could get hosed here with Jadarian Price.
Yeah. Especially when Charbonnet comes back. Agreed.
Yeah, let's move on to maybe the lesser known rookies from this year's draft that people should be getting to know because of all the camp hype. These are like the camp hype all-stars, maybe not Jonah Coleman, but the camp hype all-stars for this past offseason. Starting at the top with the Lord of the substation himself, Deshaun Stribling. Super excited about him. Like, again, like if I'm putting my best picks of the draft, he's one that you put up there in these late rounds, again, going for almost nothing. And you're talking about Mike Evans and Deebo Samuel that live in the blue tent. They're setting up their apartment there. Like, Deshaun Stribling is going to get a lot of playing time this year. And so far he looks the part. Denzel Boston has been steadily running with the ones in Browns camp. He's just attached to a crappy offense. Jacoby Lane is making highlight reel catches consistently in camp. He looks legit. I know we mentioned this on the ADP movers, but prior to this past college season, he was ranked ahead of Mekhi Lemon, and people were really hyped on Lane, and things flipped. But he's attached to a brilliant offense here, obviously with Lamar Jackson. And so, if he beats out Rashad Bateman or Flowers are hurt, it could really be wheels up for Lane. So, if you miss out on a Stribling, Lane, someone to get. And then Jonah Coleman is your nice ad. Obviously Denver running backs pay dividends, especially in the passing game, where he excels. RJ Harvey, there's definitely a lot of mixed sentiment on him. This, from his past season and into this offseason, J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. So if you want to stash a running back, Jonah Coleman is someone to look at. Yeah,
agreed. Obviously Stribling, right? You guys can see the flag behind me. I'm a huge homer. And Stribling definitely is he could be a wide receiver 1 for them, right? Because those guys are always dead, as you said. But Jonah Coleman, I thought was interesting on the list that we had here, because you did hit the nail on the head with Denver running backs. Like, J.J. Dobbins always gets hurt, right? Like, and then RJ Harvey thing. And it's like Sean Payton's just, a mad genius. He knows how to use them. And I feel like Jonah Coleman's like that guy that's going to pay dividends in the second. He's going to be a guy who wins somebody a game in the fantasy playoffs. I'm calling that right now. I think that will happen. So that's my call, my shot right there for this show.
All right. Love it. All right, let's get into our next segment. And let's get into the sack, Jack. With 6 sleepers from this offseason that people have been hyping up, and that we are talking about who we're in and out on here. We've got 3 pass catchers, and then we've got 3 running backs. And Abe, you're going to take us through the pass catchers first here. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, the syndrome. There he is. Yeah, there he is. I mean, it's like at this point with Alec Pierce's injury, is this guy really a sleeper anymore? I mean, he's moving up the boards pretty quick, but yes, I mean, I think he's going to have a really good year. I like Josh Downs. Likely Golden are very interesting to me. Very, very interesting. I've always liked Isaiah Likely. I just thought that he just needed to get his chance. I think he's a top talent. I think he is, going to solidify himself, obviously, in New York. Going back to, okay, it is Matt Nagy offense, all that stuff. But I just think the talent is there with him, with Likely. And I think that, especially when you're getting that as a tight end, you don't have to spend any draft capital on him, right? You can get him late. He's a great, if you're going to get in Brock Bowers, this guy's perfect to stash away on your bench behind, Bowers, right? To make sure, just in case you're handcuffed, for lack of a better term, right, for tight ends. Golden's really interesting because remember, he was one of the darlings last year, and everybody in Green Bay is like, oh, we finally got the receiver that we've always wanted. I want to see him do well. I really do. I'd love to see him do well. I think that he can have a really good year. I just think that he's got two talents that I think playing with him that it might be better than him, if that makes sense, right? And you got Tucker Kraft there, right?
Yeah.
So he's the wild card of the three. I think the safest bet of these three is obviously the syndrome, then Likely, and then Golden. But where you're getting Golden as, a wide receiver 4, why not, right? I would roll with that for sure.
Yeah, great points. Like for me, Josh Downs is like the super darling of the analyst community. Probably the biggest value sleeper pick that you'd find from an offseason archetype perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Throw some cold water though on it because Keenan Allen is coming there, and
that's right
with that signing. So that's kind of a little bit of a downser. But it does suck, and I know he got a little bit banged up. He fell on his back or whatever, and so it's it's a little bit of cold water on it. I think Alec Pierce being hurt at least still gives him the opportunity to be in there. In 12 personnel set, which was the biggest concern. Johns was just never on the field, never targeted the end zone. And so we're really hoping those things change. Keenan Allen maybe downgrades that. Matthew Golden, we don't even know if he's good. We just know that there's no one else. Yeah. There's no other wide receiver. So, when we believe in the Green Bay offense, Isaiah Likely, he's looked the part, at times, and supposedly in training camp's been one of Dart's favorite targets. But on the flip side, they go out and, the preseason and, he only plays 6 out of 14 snaps with Dart. And then Theo Johnson's in for 7, the fullback's in for 6. And so you're like, all right, is he like a Dalton Kincaid type or something where he's not on the field? But like you mentioned before, the draft capital is literally nothing. Yeah. So if you're waiting on tight end or you need to, double tap tight end because you waited, Likely is one of those guys you should take a shot on to see if he has that upside. All right, let's move on to the running back room for the sleepers here. And so the three that have been mentioned the most by analysts, Jordan Mason, who I've kind of flipped on quite a bit. When we did our initial ADP movers, I was more in on Jones, but the more, I've heard the drum beats, the more evidence that's been, presented to me, I've kind of changed my philosophy here that I do like Jordan Mason better than Aaron Jones this year. Primarily, obviously, you've got the age factor for Jones. He's, well into his 30s here. And you have Mason. I think the thing that changed my mind the most was, they've got Frank Smith coming in. It's implementing the outside zone, which was in San Francisco, where Mason averaged almost 6 yards per carry. So it's all right, now I'm interested. He doesn't catch the ball, which is the downside, but it makes me extremely interested now in Jordan Mason that you can get probably as an RB4, even as RB3, if you went wild at wide receiver or onesie position. Sure. J.K. Dobbins, I love J.K. You tell me he plays the full season, you're winning. You're hitting pay dirt with J.K. Dobbins, and he's gone up in ADP, almost getting out of real sleeper territory here. But we've already seen him be the lead back. He's the guy that gets all the valuable touches in Denver's offense when he's healthy. Sign me up for that, and I'm just gonna, hold the rosary that it doesn't get hurt. Rashad White, unfortunately, he got hurt. He was another one I was getting steamed up with over the last month as well. He got hurt, although I think he's back at practice or will be back at practice. It was a hamstring injury. But yeah, obviously he's gone up a lot, 40 plus catches in the last 4 seasons. So he has a receiving chops. He's got the connection with Jaden Daniels at ASU.
Yeah.
So he's sexy to me. And I would say also if he's hurt and that becomes a thing, you should get Bill. Like Bill is, showing up to in practice as well. But to me, like Rachaad White has proven he can pass pro, has proven he can, absorb a lot of touches and maybe not be efficient, but he can get the rock. And so, for all these guys, I'm in, but if I'm ranking, I definitely obviously want Dobbins. And then, just maybe due to this injury right now to Rachaad White, I'm probably leaning more Mason now. But, you talked to me like a week and a half ago, I'd say Rachaad. What say you, Abe?
Jordan Mason's the most intriguing one. That weird, there's a note, not weird, it's like really cool about him. There was a note that I had here that was, since entering the league in 2022, only Devon Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs have a higher yards per carry than Mason, right? So when he came in and for McCaffrey, when McCaffrey's calves fell off, and Mason started the season, dude, he was ripping. I mean, awesome.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
He's a big boy. So I have really flipped on Mason. In fact, like, spoiler alert, he's a target in one of our drafts coming up. He definitely is. I mean, it's like he's great. So he's a guy I really like a lot. I am a little bummed about Rachaad White because I think Rachaad White was potential a lot of value there. And of course, I agree with you with J.K. Dobbins. If he could just stay healthy, dude, like he's great. I mean, he is great. That bums me out that he can never stay healthy like a whole season.
Yep. Yeah, it's a shame. Like so much lost opportunity there. But that dude's a fighter. He scraps back every time. All right. Well, we are going to move on to our next. So this, like I was thinking about, we got our rookies, we got our sleepers. Let's talk about people that are going off to the deep sleep here. And oldies but goodies. I threw this in at the end because I'm like, we got to at least talk about this for people drafting because this has been one of the bigger shifts that has happened, or one of the big pieces of news that happened over the last few weeks. You had Deebo signing with the Niners. You had Diggs signing with the Commanders, and last but not least, you had Allen, signing. I think it was just a couple of days ago now, from when we're recording, signing with the Colts. And these guys, the way it works with these guys is like their ADP is so depressed, and then it never gets changed because it's just too late in the process because these guys can, miss all the offseason and just join late. And so, if you're chasing upside, in your draft and you're grabbing these guys that, or maybe an injured guy that's going to take some time to ramp up, these are your safety valves that'll get you through that period of time and produce at least acceptable levels of performance and maybe give you a few spike weeks. Obviously, Stephon Diggs was fantastic last year, as was Keenan Allen. He fell off a bunch at the end too. Deebo was great, then he got hurt. So, I think the things that you can expect is like early in the season, these guys will probably yield great results and maybe even Diggs throughout the season. But eventually the wheels will fall off, and hopefully your upside guys will start to filter out who's made it, who hasn't, and then you can kind of make your choices there. But I just want to make it, advocate for, people that are chasing upside to not forget about the old folks that have signed recently. And
the AARP would like to thank you.
Yes. And that they're there to stabilize your builds, if you've got a little too hot on the upside handle as you've been clicking through the draft.
Yeah, completely agree. Like safe floors, right? Like That's kind of what.
That's a great way to put it.
And that's and I like all of them. It's just kind of wild that like how good these guys are at football. They're like, hey, I'm just gonna hang out all summer. You guys need a player? Sure, sign me up. And now they're gonna start. It's so crazy. And there's these rookies and these guys out of college who are like, giving them all they got, like the little Rudies of the world. Like these dudes just coming like, get out of here, kid. It's just wild.
All right, let's move on to our second to last segment here. Woo, we're doing it. And let's talk about a rapid fire here of who we like. So these are people that maybe are considered values, maybe considered breakouts. They're kind of in the middle rounds here. Well, let's take it to Doom or Goon. What are we looking at for these players here? Do we like them? Are we gooning over them? Or do we predict doom for their season here in 2026?
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Go.
First up is Mike Evans. So Mike Evans actually has been up and down. He started off kind of really hot in the offseason after signing with the 49ers. From Fantasy Football Today, I would take him in round 5. I really don't see what's so different about him. In a guy like Davante Adams, I understand Evans had a bad year last year, and Adams was wide receiver 9 per game. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. And then from establish the run, Mike Evans, who will turn 33 years old in a couple weeks. The substation talk just won't stop with all these injuries. And it looks like Mike Evans not hurt, terribly, but he tweaked his quad or whatever earlier this week. How you feeling about Mike Evans? Is he doom or goon?
He's doom. Much as I hate to say it, he's definitely doom. Yeah, poor guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now he's in your like round 5, round 6 range. An underdog. He's like top of round 5, end of round 4.
And fading.
And then for me, I mean, obviously ESPN. I mean, 94.5. Like, yeah, sign me up. Whatever. But for me, like I'm with you. I'm on the doom side. If he stays healthy, he'll be great. He'll get a lot of touchdowns. I think it's already started off with bad juju with the injuries. So I'm likely out unless he's going super late in drafts. Right now, like, you have to talk about probably 7th or later. So I'm dooming him as well. Next up, we have DJ Moore. So Josh and Hayden, they flipped. He's saying he's wide receiver 25 now this is Josh for him. And there's, none of those players that, maybe he expressed hesitation for back in June, but now here in August, he's drafting him well ahead of the public. And we've seen some movement upwards on DJ Moore. So we're talking, 56 on Sleeper, 63. So we're, in round 5 into maybe early round 6. Are you dooming or are you gooning?
I'm going to goon.
Goon it!
Yeah.
Show me your O face. Yep.
I think that now Buffalo has that wide receiver that they need that they never seem to have, right? So maybe he goes in. I'm only gooning over him where he's getting drafted, like what round he's getting drafted in. I don't press it, right? Like don't go higher up. But I like where he's getting drafted right now, and that's how I feel about him. What say you? Yeah,
and one thing just to touch on this, like one thing I forgot to bring up is obviously like the counter argument is his production fall to the bottom over the last couple years here. Very real possibility DJ Moore is just totally cooked, totally washed. This is from fantasy points. Over the last 2 years, all wide receivers with over 125 targets, 56 qualifiers. DJ Moore ranks bottom 6 in targets per route run, bottom 6 in yards per route run, bottom 6 in first downs per route run. So terrible. But I'm with you. I'm going to goon at the draft price.
We're contrarians.
Yeah. So like give him to me in the 6th round. I'll take it. I'll probably be okay with him in the 5th round too, with the hope that he returns to form, a la Steph Diggs when he joined Buffalo, playing with the best quarterback of his career. Let's talk about Bayshell Tuten next. Rudy Toot Toot. So here's one from RotoWire. The vibes are very good right now. You have a lot of fantasy analysts who actually have come on my show, Brian Heath, JJ Zacharyson, and guys who are flag planting Bayshell Tuten as the preferred running back target, period. Counterpoint from Scott Barrett on Fantasy Points. Don't gaslight me, bro. Bayshell Tuten sucked ass last year. Had 0 runs over 15 yards, had 2 games over 28 yards of scrimmage. There were multiple runs against the Bills that I would have scored on if he didn't. So he's going in a similar range as DJ Moore. So we're talking, again, bottom of round 5, top of round 6. Where are you at? You gooning or are you dooming?
I'm with Scott. I'm dooming. That's like the funniest thing. I even knew that when it was said, and that's the funniest thing still. Even 10 days after he said it, like, don't gaslight me, bro. When I read that, I was laughing so hard, dude. Yeah, but in all seriousness, the 0 runs over 15 yards is like, oof. I did not like that at all. And now you got Crad there, the Crad, who could take, start taking goal line touches from him. So I'm all
dooming. Well, I'm gonna go contrarian. I'm gonna go with Bayshell Tuten.
Okay.
At his draft price, I'm gonna take it. Again, we're talking in the dead zone. It probably has that typical dead zone aura. I do like Crod at his price, honestly. But if I'm chasing some upside here later in the round 5, round 6 range, I feel like Tuten's the one to take the chance on and kind of rip my tutors here. All right, let's talk about our next Goon or Doom candidate here. Sammy Laporta, the honey bucket himself. All right. So you see that Trey McBride has been at 70% route share in like his last 27 games in a row or something. Like that is a stat. This is from the RotoWire. Laporta has been, in terms of non-tight end premium, which is just the number I have in my head, like 15 fantasy points per game in his career above 70% route share, just when he's played the full-time role. I expect that for Laporta this year. So this is talking about the effect of Drew Petzig coming over, who obviously, lit up the statistical charts for Trey McBride, and now has the focal point on Samuel Laporta, has the opportunity to do so for Samuel Laporta. Counterpoint from Fantasy Points. Sam Laporta is the one I'm concerned about, only because of micro dissectomy. Anytime someone has that surgery on their disc, I don't love it. And I think he came up a little dinged up recently as well. Again, he's going in that same range that we've been talking about in that 5th, 6th round in most platforms. Are you dooming or are you gooning?
I'm getting all over the place.
You got problems.
And it's because he looks like fucking Jason Segel from
How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah. Again, it's the whole like Trey, like the guy, the coordinator for Arizona coming over, and just implementing all the stuff that Trey McBride had. And, this, I love Laporta. He's like, I've tons of shares of this guy. So I think he's going to have a big bounce back season this year.
Yeah, and I'm going to goon with him as well. And with Samuel Laporta, I do like him at his ADP right now, although it's honestly getting a little uncomfortable. It goes up a little higher. Like I'm probably going to be out pretty soon here. If it goes up any higher, like it's getting a little uncomfortable. The reason being, like when Amon-Ra and J-Mo are on the field, it just hasn't been great for Laporta, but I do like the offensive scheme potentially changing here, and him being, the beneficiary of first free targets and the Trey McBride love. All right, let's go to our last Doom or Goon, and that is Bucky Irving here. So Bucky Irving. So first things first, this is from Establish the Run. Bucky Irving, you are betting on a bounce back, and historically, betting on a bounce backs are bad bets in fantasy football. Plus, Bucky Irving has to deal with losing receiving work to Kenny Gainwell. And then from Fantasy Pros, and you listen to Fantasy Pros, Pat Fitzmaurice, who I respect that dude a lot. I love listening to that guy. He always has some really great takes. Yep, I'm actually pretty strongly in. And sorry, this one actually was, he's been one that's been championing Bucky Irving. This was actually Deepak Chona was on the show. So he's, those who don't listen or watch, pay attention to Twitter or listen to the Fantasy Pros, he's like one of the big time Twitter doctors for fantasy football. He had this to say. Yeah, I'm actually pretty strongly in. And the reason is Bucky Irving, they said the shoulder was really what was holding him up. And that if you look, excuse me, and if you look at the first 4 weeks compared to the rest of the season, that's when he sustained the shoulder injury in week 5. Comparing those periods, he had a major drop off of about 70% in his number of, even his number of targets and his yards after contact, and obviously his receiving yards. So some, from a doctor's perspective, he was feeling really good about the potential for Bucky Irving. Obviously, we got the Kenny Gainwell and the Sean Tucker thing, similar kind of like a Bashal Tuten, where you got people that are going to steal some of the quality or value components of having a running back workhorse. He's obviously going higher than the other people that we've been talking about right now. So on Sleeper, you're talking in round 4. In round ESPN Yahoo, you're talking round 5. Are you gooning or are you dooming here?
I'm only dooming just because of where he's going right now. That's all, the only reason why. I want to like Bucky Irving, but there's some things that it's just something. These are vibes, just talking, right? Just the vibes themselves and the concerns. They don't feel right with Bucky Irving. So I'm going to doom. But look, if I have a mid-round 5th pick and I need a running back, I'm absolutely taking Bucky Irving. I'll be stoked to have him. I'm just saying, like, where his capital is right now, the draft capital where he is now currently, and I know he's getting faded a little bit. I'm not down with it, but it's a soft doom for me. You
just a wee bit of doom.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to goon him. I'm gooning Bucky. It's a mix. You're betting on him returning to 2024. And I'm betting on that he was injured. I know, and obviously the line was having, the Bucs were a mess. The Bucs were fucks. And so, I feel like this is their turning around. Like, when you're talking about dead zone running backs, he's probably one of the guys that I'm bullish on. Listen, end of round 4, we talked about the studs there in the wide receiver room. It's gonna be hard to pass those guys up. You get into round 5, I'm in on Bucky, and so I will Goon on him. All right. All right, let's move now to our final segment where Abe and I pick our league winners for 2026. And so we consider league winners, they're not going to be your top 3 rounds. These are people that are in your later rounds that are going to outperform their ADP and give you kind of that round 1 or 2 value in the season, fortifying your roster and making you nuclear against your league mates. All right, let's see here. For me, my league winner for 2026 is DeAndre Swift, Chicago Bears. And he's someone I've had him ranked really high going into the offseason. He started to climb quite a bit in ADP. He's been going in the round 5. He's going later than that. Previously, he's probably starting to creep into round 4. He had 5 20-point games last season. We keep hyping up the Bears offense and making that, transition to the Lions level of proficiency here in year 2. Right. Why not DeAndre Swift? And I love this line here. Derrick Henry is the only RB other than DeAndre Swift to finish inside the top 24 in points per game in each of the last 6 seasons. So he's consistent. He's usually on the field. And the cherry on the top now is Kamanungai is currently week to week with an injury. Week to week, not day to day. And so we're in a position here where DeAndre gets potentially a full workload here. And we should be excited about this Bears offense. So we should be excited about DeAndre Swift returning real value above his 5th round draft capital.
Great pick, I think, for your league winner. That's awesome. It's a great pick.
Thanks, Abe. All right, let's move on to you now. And Abe's league winner is
Began and Egbuka. Dude, this guy's. I love it. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked that. I mean, here's the obvious ones: volume, right? Evans is gone. Godwin's down on. He's on the back end of his career. This guy is going to be the go-to guy. Baker and him really connected. He was, beginning of the season last year, everybody knows he was amazing, right? Then he got hurt. And again, you touched on it a minute ago with Bucky. The Bucks just turned into Fox. They went off a cliff, right? Completely. They were the number 1 seed in the NFC halfway through, and then didn't even make the playoffs, right? So it was like, okay, they were terrible. But I'm really excited about Zach Robinson coming over as the OC. That's the other thing that I like about this. And Baker being healthy, because Baker's going to sling it. He's a smart quarterback. That's what you're going to be a top end receiver. You need that guy, right? Mm-hmm. You need the smart quarterback. He's not, I don't know if he's smart, but he's got balls. Let's just say that. He's not going to say quad, as they say in French. And he'll be behind more in his natural Z position, right? The Z role. So I'm really high on him. The big thing about him was he was the wide receiver 3 in PPR last year through 5 games. And that's at 20 points plus per game with 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, obviously, you're not going to do that through a whole season. That's very hard to do, right? That is like JSN numbers last year. That is like Justin Jefferson. But again, 4th round, he's on that stud island with all those ladies. He's going to win your league for you, and he's going to win those ladies' hearts. So I'm all high on Egbuka.
Love it, dude. Love the pick. I love Egbuka, too. It's, again, delicious, savory man in that 4th round.
It's as comfortable as he looks.
Yeah. So we made it to the end. We did it. We crammed it.
Wow.
Yeah, we crammed it all in like prom night, and we are ready to take on the draft week. We hope we've got you prepared to crush your drafts over the next 3 weeks, and hopefully got a lot of information. And stay tuned to us here in this channel. Obviously, like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Go sign up for twif. It's 100% free, and you get access to every analyst every important analyst in the fantasy ecosystem. That's including social media and podcasts. And we've got all the great stats, awesome draft tools for auction and snake. So come join us on the Week in Fantasy. And I hope this is extremely helpful.
It's free, guys. What else can you say? Yeah. Right?
All right, everyone. Take care. Peace.